I introduced Tom last week, so I don't know. There's not a whole lot more to be said. We know that he has edited or co-authored 4 books on Hope's history of sports. I didn't realize that the one that Tom wrote and published just a couple of years ago is actually a 2-volume book. So, for $25, you get not one, but 2 books, really. So those will be available after class. Tom will gladly sign those for you. So thanks for doing that. So the only other thing I would say, and I hate cliches, but this is the one that comes to mind. I honestly believe that if you were to look up Hope College, either in an encyclopedia or on Wikipedia or somewhere, Tom Renner would be the first name mentioned. Tom, you are Hope College to so many of us, and you have been for over 50 some odd years, close to 60 now, because your association with Hope began in the early 60s when you were a student and graduated in 67. So let's just welcome a man who means so much to Hope College and therefore to all of us. Thanks, Tom.
60 years does seem like a long time, doesn't it? But many of the moments that I'll share with you are really vivid still. It was just fun a minute or two ago when we were out in the lobby there talking about the Van Raalte Hall fire in 1980 and an experience that I had then. Special guests in the audience today, Carol, my dear wife, and daughter Suze. Glad to have you guys forbearing me one more time. That's great. And Lynn, who helped me in so many different ways, including preparation for our PowerPoints. Thank you for that, Lynn. And I feel I'm gonna have to be really careful what I say because I got some colleagues here that weren't here last week. So George, John, good to see you. Thanks for being here today. Last week, we talked about the beginning of Hope Athletics and took it through over 100 years from the beginning right up until 1969. And benefiting from the rich resources of materials, especially the 2 volumes that Gord Brewer wrote. And today we're going to pick it up at 1970, which is when my book begins. And a special treat for you today. My time frame in the book ended in 2020, but I've added some things for my presentation today to bring you right up to date through last Saturday's victory over Adrian. I'd like first to acknowledge some organizations and collections for helping me not only with today, but in formulating the book In Pursuit of Excellence. And I had a lot of resources available to me in doing this. As I said, Hope's athletic history and how it's been recorded is just so rich. Many volumes, a lot of rich photos in the archives. So it really has been an easy task, if you want to call it that, for me in preparing the published work and today's presentation. Last week we talked about early athletics. I know you all enjoyed that top picture of an early football team. Kind of put their, whoops, I'm losing my link. Okay. Let's see. Like that? Okay. I just banged it. Okay. There we go. But the football teams back then, there were not a lot of equipment. And they obviously had fun in promoting their their injuries for the photographer. The picture on below is a game early years at the Holland Armory. I was inspired to do this project by Gord Brewer. I had a wonderful long association with Gord, history major at Hope, and in retirement he wrote these 2 volumes. The first one that published in 1992, can't the Brown. Oh, I got a good thing. I keep forgetting to advance. Okay, but how you played the game, and then in the year 2000, Journey of Hope, and there's really 2 very, very rich volumes and so many firsthand experiences, especially in Journey of Hope, that Gord put into his volumes. I've had a camera in my hands since really elementary school. My dad was a photojournalist in Chicago, and he really inspired me to take on this love of photography. And the $2 a picture he paid me, if they got published, it was always an incentive. My dad started out with what they called large format cameras, and so much different nowadays with the digital cameras and the motor drives, and in those days you typically just had one chance to take the picture, to capture the moment. The camera I'm holding there is what's called a 2 1/4 format film camera. The history, from my point of view, and starting to present it to the Hope constituency, started with the displays in the DeVos Fieldhouse. Early on in the design of the field house, we were having meetings, and the conversation was, how should we present the trophy cases, and what could we do to make them unique? President Boltman at that meeting asked the question. I think he knew what the answer was, but he asked the question, how many sports do we have at Hope? And at that time we had 18. And he said, and how many alcove openings around the beautiful concourse will there be? And he was told there'll be 18. Okay, so let's create a display for every sport at Hope to highlight them, with a large photo and cases that can be filled up not only with trophies but with pictures and narratives. So that was the challenge, and those cases have actually grown now with the addition in recent years of lacrosse to 20 alcoves. And I would, if you are in the Voss Fieldhouse, I encourage you to take a look at those, because over the summer, Alan Babbitt, our sports information director, has updated them significantly. I mean, they have been what I put in them 15, 16 years worth of things. Alan has really done a nice job of bringing them up to date. I'm very grateful to our friends at the Van Raalte Institute, Jack Nienhuis and Johanna Smith. When I came to the conclusion that I wanted to write a book, I went and talked to Jack and asked if the Van Raalte Institute would be my sponsor, and he very enthusiastically said yes, they would. And Johanna, who is his lead editor for a lot of books, really was just inspirational to me in how she smoothed my rough edges in the preparation of the text. And she had a lot of fun in doing it, because she would frequently tell me that, this is really the first non-academic kind of book that the Van Raalte Institute was going to be sponsoring. And so she learned not only the historical parts, but things about sport. The end result is the book In Pursuit of Excellence. And as Steve said, it's 2 volumes. I wanted my book, because I'm known for my photography, I wanted my book to really be heavy with photos. Um, but at the same time, we're covering 50 years of Hope sport, and I wanted to make sure the narrative was very, very complete. So before I knew it, I had 2 volumes. They weigh together 6 pounds. I know that every time I carry a full box around, that's 36 pounds. And I'm thinking, Tom, you probably should have edited a little tighter, but they're forever there. Over 1,000 pictures in the 2 volumes. Just a quick run through on Hope facilities. On the left is the first gym, built in 1862. It was built by students and was used for a chapel, for the assembly hall, and the gym. That evolved into the construction of Carnegie Gym in 1906 on the right. And as I related last week, Andrew Carnegie, a philanthropist in New York City, answered the call from President Collin at that time to help support the construction of this project with a donation of $20,000. Andrew Carnegie is best known for his philanthropy in encouraging the construction of libraries across the country. And to our knowledge, this is the only building he ever funded that was not a library. At the upper left is a game being played by Hope women's team at the Holland Armory. After Carnegie Gym, this was the next stop for Hope's basketball teams. And they played at the Holland Armory until 1954, when the Holland Civic Center opened. On the right is old Riverview Park, where Hope played its football games from 1932 to 1978. We're really excited with the construction in the late 70s of the Dow Center, Dow Physical Education and Health Center, it was called then. And it was not intended to be a spectator facility. Our women's basketball program was evolving, and there were some portable bleachers being put in there. But before you knew it, the popularity of the women's game just exploded to the fact of, you can see from this picture in the upper left, not only bleachers on both sides, but a lot of people up on the running track even enjoying a game. On the right is a photo of celebration of at the Civic Center, 1980, Hope against Calvin. We went into that game having lost to Calvin 22 consecutive games and ended up winning that game 65-57. And Glenn Van Weeren actually cut down the nets that night. It was a very, very exciting moment. Take you to 2003. And this really kind of signals the start of a new era as far as physical facilities are concerned. At the corner of 8th Street and Fairbanks Avenue was the old Western Foundry and the Holland, City of Holland Street Department garage. And the college was able to acquire both properties. And in the summer of 2003, as you can see in this picture, President Boltman, with a group of young basketball players who were here for a summer camp, gathered in front of the foundry to announce that DeVos Fieldhouse would be constructed. It at that time was very much in the planning stages, and it was about 3 more years in November of 2005 when the first games were played at the beautiful DeVos Fieldhouse. DeVos not only has presented a wonderful opportunity for Hope to have athletic events there, but we've hosted on numerous occasions NCAA events, such as the one on the right there of Division III volleyball championships. Just quickly running through facilities that have evolved during this same time. As I said, the beginning with the groundbreaking for DeVos. On the upper left is Van Andel Soccer Stadium. On the right, the Vanderpool Haringa Tennis Complex. On the left, the Ray and Sue Smith football stadium. And this is a new picture that I actually just took last week, because in the back, you can see the beautiful new Haringa Athletic Center. It's a facility that now provides locker room space for the football team in the fall and baseball and softball teams in the spring. On the right is a picture of Walters Stadium, softball stadium, and it is there's just the same kind of wonderful facility also provided for baseball through the Bowie Baseball Stadium. Last week I talked about legends and how, you know, even now we still talk about the accomplishments of our forebears in athletics. Dr. John Levain, at the class of 1908, who went on to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. Floyd Brady, class of 1968, still holds the Hope record in basketball for scoring. Jim Cott, recently inducted into the MLB Hall of Fame, pitched his freshman year here at Hope, caught the attention of Major League Scouts, and he was on to his illustrious 23-year career in the major leagues. So the question becomes, who are going to be the legends of the future? And the one really noticeable change in the Hope athletic scene in the past 40 years has been how women's sport has evolved. So I've just kind of taken the liberty here of saying future legends are going to be female student athletes. At the top is Anna Tucker, class of 2023, an 8-time All-American in track, a 3-time All-American in cross country. In the left is Addie Vanderweide. Addie is a senior on the volleyball team this year, and she was the Division III National Co-Player of the Year as a junior. And on the right, Kennedy Schoonveld, women's basketball, class of 22. She was Player of the Year in NCAA Division III and a 3-time first-team All-American. Women's athletics really did take off in the middle 1970s. The Title IX legislation regarding equal opportunity had been passed in 1972. And at that point in time, very, very low visibility for women's sport nationwide at Hope College. There really was not a formal program for women's athletics. So Dr. Ann Irwin came to Hope in 1976 and took on the Herculean task of growing the women's program. And in my volume, I have a couple wonderful chapters on the growth of women's intercollegiate sport. One done by colleague Eva Folkert, and the other by Don Leidens, who now is directing the Van Raalte Institute. Another cool feature in the book is we went back and identified women who were in athletics from as far back as we could go, and it declared them H Club Athletic alumni, which is an honor given to athletes who compete in athletics at Hope. And that listing of those honorees can be found in my book. The time that when Ann came, we had 7 sports for women, and she had a major selling job to elevate their status. For example, her total budget the first year that she was AD was $11,000 for across 7 sports. Football alone that year had a budget of $13,000. But the growth of women's athletics and their success has really evolved very, very quickly. On the upper left is what we've called the Miracle on 8th Street. It's the 1990 women's basketball team. They won the Division III in storybook fashion at the Civic Center in 1990. and it was tagged the Miracle on A Street. I mean, it came back from a deep hole in the game to win it on free throws at the very, very end. On the right is the women's a picture of a women's swim team. Really has grown to high national respect. And John, it's good to have you here because John, you're so responsible for the growth of that program. The swim program, since it began, has crowned 13 men's national champions and 25 women's. Rob Pell's in the upper left there, and he's one of the first NCAA All-American in track and field. Rob cleared 7 feet at the 1985 NCAA championships. Our first women's national champion was Sarah Stanwood. Sarah is pictured on the left and actually competed in the AIAW, which is preceded women's sport becoming part of the NCAA. And Sarah was a national champion. On the right, probably the preeminent female swimmer at Hope, Shelley Russell, class of 1987. She was a 7-time national champion. Just an outstanding distance freestyler. In 2014, the volleyball team won its first won the national championship. On the right, Coach John again with his 1995 200 medley relay championship team. Bottom left, Josh Gibson, an outstanding golfer in 2017, and he received the Jack Nicklaus Award for the National Player of the Year. Actually twice, back-to-back years, and honored to get that award from Jack Nicklaus. Carla Walters coached at Hope for many years, and we're so sad with her passing. But such an advocate for women's athletics, for Hope College. She's pictured here congratulating Carrie Scott. Carrie, All-American catcher, home run leader for Hope. Had at one point in time a 29-game hitting streak going. Hope became a member, the women's program became a member of the MIAA in 1978. Up until that point in time, there was an organization called the WMIAA, but it did not have an affiliation with the league. And it was decided in 1978 to merge both the men's and the women's program. And the MIAA really has the distinction of being the first collegiate conference in the country to do that, so that administrators of the women's program, administrators of the men's program, sat at the same table and created the MIAA as we know it today. What I'm going to do now, I just put together some of my all-time favorite pictures. My dad, as I told you earlier, was a photo journalist, and in the Chicago area, and he was always encouraging me when would go to take pictures to look for the unusual picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be the player scoring the basket or running in for a touchdown. And he would go to games and he'd come back with all these delightful little extra beyond the norm pictures. And it kind of stuck with me over all these years to always kind of be looking, for something that's a little different than the typical. With that said, I'm just going to run you through some of these. Sue Van Disk, what was, and I'm guessing maybe she's the only female athlete that play on a men's team in the modern era, at least. She was a member of the men's golf team in the 1970s. On the left is our two football players who were hurt in the same game, Barry Brugger and Greg Voss, in the 1972 season. And the game was over, and I was in my car on my way home, and just out of curiosity is how they were doing. I stopped at Holland Hospital, and there they were. They're getting ready for surgery from their injury. On the right is Soldier Field, the football team playing a game there that they won, and that was the Hope crowd that made the trip all the way to Chicago to watch the game at Soldier Field. April of 1980 really was a very significant time in the history of Hope. Van Raalte Hall on the lower left and Van Vleck Hall on the upper left, both burned. We lost Van Raalte Hall completely, and in it a lot of our records. Fortunately for me, all of the film negatives that because I was still shooting film were over in our dark room, our photo lab in the basement of the physics building, and that was the good news. The bad news is that all of the proof sheets that we had made from those negatives burned up in the fire. So we spent the summer of 1980 reconstructing a lot of those proof sheets. And I've been a volunteer fireman in South Haven for a long time. And out of instinct, when the Van Vleck caught fire on April 21st, 1980, I heard the sirens. We were just leaving Van Raalte Hall to go have lunch and could see the smoke spewing out of the roof. So I raced over there, still in my coat and tie, and there was a lift because some painters had been burning paint underneath the exterior of the roof. And I jumped into the basket. The fire trucks were just pulling up. I had grabbed a hose and said, "Get me up there. We're going to get that fire put out." So the firemen, when they all started arriving, said, "Who's that guy up on the roof? Get him off of there." I said, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." But I did get down, and they did save Van Vleck Hall. Probably should let John tell us about this, one of his favorite things. That shows the women's swim team after claiming a championship, giving the coach a ride to the pool. On the lower left, Russ DeVette, a distinguished career at Hope. And I know one of the thrills he had were coaching in track, son Kurt and daughter Lisa. Eck Bai's class of 1937, at that point in his collegiate career, set the Hope shot put record and was just indeed thrilled 33 years later when his grandson, Matt Bai, broke the Hope College shot put record, and Eck had a chance to actually be at the meet. The miracle on 8th Street that I've been talking about, Dina Disney, senior player, coolly stepped to the free throw line with no time on the clock, scored the free throws that gave Hope the national championship. And the next day, the Holland Sentinel headline said, "Wonderful World of Disney," because she just had an amazing game. Down below, our student section is known as the Do Crew, and it was founded in 1996, and they have really been an enthusiastic supporter of Hope Athletics over these years. On the right, just a couple different pictures from basketball. The one on the left there, that's Eric Elliott, Hope College senior All-American. and just kind of working the referee a little bit there. And on the right was a game. Tom Halbert on the left and Wade Gugino on the right in 1991. And we were ahead against Spring Arbor College, and they actually pulled down the rim and shattered the backboard. And Civic Center did not have a replacement. So with maybe 10 minutes left in the game, the game had to end. And when Hope asked Spring Arbor if they'd like to come back and finish it, Spring Arbor respectfully declined. If you followed Hope basketball over the years, you might remember a referee, the name of Ernie Cryer. And Ernie really was an interesting guy. You know, a lot of calls had you scratching your head. He played to the students, especially our do crew. And Ernie had the habit of before the game started, of doing stretching exercises. He would be standing in front of the do crew, and before you know it, the whole do crew was doing them with him. About a year after I took this picture, the MIAA put into place that the referees should not be doing warm-ups on the floor. Ernie passed away, and I had the opportunity to go to the funeral home and open casket, and here was this picture in the open casket with Ernie, and his family said it's absolutely his favorite basketball memory, and they wanted to have it there. On the left is a very unique sport that was introduced by Carla Walters to Hope, called korfball, co-ed sport, somewhat like a basketball game, very popular in Europe. And Carla introduced it here to the point where a team was put together to go compete on the international scene one year. On the right, our national championship team and women's team in 2006 in the Tulip Time parade is having a great time. On the left in this picture, a women's basketball team from the 1970s having a reunion at the Voss Fieldhouse. And back when they played, the women wore skirts, and they brought their skirts to show us. On the right, Steve Gorno was the men's tennis coach. This picture in 2012, and that's his young son kind of huddling up with the team before a match. In February 2020, we celebrated Gordon Van Wylen's 100th birthday, and with a tribute to him at the Voss Fieldhouse. On the right, two of Hope's outstanding basketball players, when they came back for a reunion, Brittany Berry and Liz Ellis, had to emulate Coach Mo with the lack of hair. Hope's athletic training program really is second to none, in my opinion. It started with Jack Scouten, and this is a picture of Jack treating an athlete down in the basement of Carnegie Gym. Then the lower left, Dr. Lawrence Green. Doc Green also was the men's tennis coach. And on the right is Rich Ray. Rich with a group of his training with his students at the NCAA cross country championships one year. And it's an accredited program, and it is highly regarded in that regard. Now I'm going to take you through a few pictures of Hope Calvin rivalry, and in the book I have a chapter of the best of Hope Calvin. And when you hear that, you're probably thinking, oh, it's basketball. But what I've done is I've highlighted outstanding Hope Calvin athletic events in many different sports. In the upper left, a winning slide at home plate in 2013 by T.J. Klein, won the game won the championship for Hope. In the lower left, Steve Underwood from Hope and Kurt Mass from Calvin, two outstanding long distance runners. And I just thought, you know, this picture kind of best captured the camaraderie and respect that athletes from both Hope and Calvin, you know, have for one another. On the right, go back to 1986 at the MIAA Track and Field Championships at Albion College. And our sprinter then, outstanding sprinter then, was Rob Appel. And Rob anchored the mile relay team event, which Hope needed to win to get the MIAA championship. And when he took the baton to begin the final lap, he was maybe 10, 15 yards behind the Calvin runner. I was sitting in the stands with Gord and Russ, and our jaws just dropped because we were watching the back half of the race. You could just see Appel just eating up the Calvin runner one, but you know, it was just absolutely amazing. It came around the corner, the curve, and Rob won at the tape to give Hope the relay and the MIAA championship. This is a picture I shared with you last week. On the left, Don Kronemeyer. He made two free throws at the end of double overtime in a 1965 game, and Hope won the game 104-102. And on the right is a game in 1986. Scott Jalander was the free throw shooter, and he that season set the Hope record for free throw accuracy. If you look real close here, the Calvin students are kind of just trying to distract him. That's a pinup picture, and just as he's shooting, they held up that poster. Mark Cook, who was manager of our bookstore, created this, and kind of a takeoff on Calvin and Hobbes. And I'll read it to you if you can't see it. It said, Hope's got the ball. Uh-oh, Calvin's on him. He shoots and scores. So how come there's no Division IV in basketball? The banners have always been fun. There was a Calvin player who had to have when he was called for a foul, kind of really very dramatic reaction. And when he did that one time, the Hope students rolled out this sign that said, "Who, me?" On the right, one year, the Hope banner that the cheerleaders hold up when the team comes out on the floor that said "Go Hope" was missing. And when we returned to play a game at Calvin later that season, there was the banner. It had been edited a little bit, fortunately just with tape, so the banner was safely returned. I thought this picture on the left, again, this really kind of typifies the respect that Hope and Calvin athletes have for each other. This 1985, and after a race, Randy Ritzema on the left from Calvin, and Scott Vogt from Hope on the right. And Randy ran away with it, and Scott actually ended up in sixth place, but came over and to congratulate his opponent. On the right, probably the best basketball player for an opposing team to play against Hope was Mark Veenstra from Calvin in mid-1970s. And he was part of that, contributing to that long losing streak that Hope had going. And in his last game at the Civic Center, he was held to 10 points, which was 22 points below his average for the year. So we lost the game, but there was a lot of celebrating for keeping Mark Veenstra in check. The Hope Calvin rivalry, especially in basketball, is well known nationally. there's a game at the DeVos Fieldhouse on the left. And on the right, it's going to be interesting to see how the football rivalry, Hope versus Calvin, takes off. That's going to be a week from this coming Saturday, Hope at Calvin. We're told the game is already sold out. And they're going to have a watch party in the DeVos Fieldhouse that afternoon for Hope fans who want to come and enjoy the game and cheer on the Dutchman. So it'll be interesting to see just the extent to which the excitement for the rivalry in football. Hope's been wanting Calvin to get football for a long time. You know, that's been one of the favorite cheers of our do crew. You know, where's your football program? So let's put that one away because here they are. We've had some really wonderful, wonderful coaches over the years. Upper left there, George, you still got the voice? This is a reunion of football players, and tradition has it they sing. If you stayed at the end of the game last Saturday, the whole team on the 50-yard line singing "Fight On You Big Dutchman," and George many times has been the lead conductor for that. On the right, Bill Vanderbilt Sr. Bill, longtime cross country coach at Hope, and this picture is fun because it really Bill had a policy, and I think it's still in existence, of cross country. It's no cuts. I mean, everybody that wants to be on the team can be on the team, but they always then pose logistic challenges for getting them around, especially when he wanted to take them out to a remote place for running for practice. So Bill got licensed to be a chauffeur, got his chauffeur's license. Hope had an old school bus that he was able to use and load up the athletes into that bus to take them out to practice. On the left, Karen Page. Karen, well known in the Holland community as a tennis coach, and coached Hope tennis for many years, and passed from cancer, sadly, and I know that in her final months, the team was in the NCAA tournament, and Karen had at that point was not coaching, but she was able to go with the team to the nationals. One of the popular things at Hope events, and frequently featuring when the national anthem is sung, Darren Deistemar's, Darren's beautiful tenor voice, and one game he invited a young girl, Ella, to join him in singing the national anthem. And it really was a tearjerker, to the point where in that middle photo, one of the referees walked over to give Ella a hug. Volleyball has some great traditions. This one, back in 1990s, Wittenberg University especially had a great volleyball program, and Hope's volleyball program was emerging, and to the point where they're in the NCAA tournament and headed to Wittenberg for a game against the Wittenberg Tigers. So Coach Smith's mom made tiger capes for the parents to wear, watch while they were at that match, to the point where I haven't been to a match this year, but this young lady that's wearing one on the left, I know she's still very much involved in the program, and I believe she still has that tiger cape. Upper left is kind of unique. Back in 1908-09, Hope had 5 sets of siblings on the swim teams, and thought that was very unusual. On the right, Henry Chen is a public safety officer at Hope. He has really evolved into an outstanding NCAA Division I volleyball official. And Henry was telling me how he got started. He was a student at Hope, and Hope had a home volleyball match. And back then, nowadays, every official is certified and assigned by the league and all that. But back then, only the referees at the net, but then it was up to the schools to provide people to be to do the line judging. And Henry was a student at the time, and Ann Irwin asked him if he'd be interested in doing that. And he, of course, did. And he said he fell in love with the game to the point where he's been to the Division I national championships as an official. September 11, 2001, the terrorist attack on our country. Very, very, very sad moment for this country. And one of the victims in the New York building that was hit was Hope College alumnus David Prime. And David was number 72. And tradition has it that the jersey 72 appears at the season opening Hope game in his memory. I'm going to conclude this part of my report, just a couple fun things. Do you remember Bill Vandenberg? Bill, we call him the Ode Man. Bill wrote over 1,000 odes that he would write and give to both the men's and the women's basketball programs. Just an amazing work. I have published a couple of them in the book. And on the right, the team women's basketball team who went to the national tournament in 2006 was unable to book a commercial flight. So before we knew it, a charter plane landed at Tulip City Airport, and just kind of a thrill for the team to fly cross country, for their game. Now I'm going to take you through some things that have happened since 2020. One of the great Hope traditions before every school year is to bring all of the student athletes together from all sports. They enjoy a supper together in the DeVos Fieldhouse, and then they get their Hope College orange T-shirts, and they go into the opposite stands and spell some words. This one's kind of unique in that all of the athletes are wearing their masks. I mean, this was during the height of COVID, and they're all there, but dutifully wearing their masks. In March of 2020, Hope's women's basketball team was undefeated, heading to the NCAAs. The buzz was that they had a national championship caliber kind of a team. And the teams were actually ready, Hope and the opponent, to compete in the sectional tournament at the DeVos Fieldhouse. And that game, as the entire tournament was canceled because of COVID. But not to be deterred from celebrating, a couple of weeks later, March 14th, 2020, the team gathered around the net, and the players cut down the nets to celebrate that undefeated journey. They went undefeated the following year, and the NCAA did not hold the tournament. Then 2022, we all know they came back again and won a national championship. These are some scenes from the COVID days. Practices with masks, fans watching contests with masks. And this is the 2022 national champion women's basketball team. That same year, the men's ice hockey club won a national championship. And on the right, I'd like to introduce you to the Hope College women's hockey team. This is the first year for women's hockey at Hope. They haven't had a home game yet. That's coming up, I think, in not this weekend, but the next weekend. And kind of like with all new programs, very, very challenging. They've played 3 games so far, all on the road. And I almost hate to say this, but they've been outscored 42-0. Oh, wait, you watch, that'll change. We're blessed to have so many great coaches, and this relationship that you see in the photo on the left, Coach Mo and his dad Dean. Dean has helped Mo coaching the women's team since the year 2000. He's in his 29th year now as our women's coach, and an amazing set of accomplishments. He now has a record of 711 wins and only 98 losses. And I know Mo doesn't even like to talk about it because he puts it all on his outstanding players. But I know you agree with me. He just done a great job of building that program. Once COVID was behind us, the 21-22 year, Hope Athletics really took off. And that year, 12 teams won MIAA championships in that year, en route to winning the all sports MIAA all sports trophy. Here is the beautiful new Herrick Athletic Center at the football field. Exterior shot on the left. The locker rooms on the right, the entryway on the left, featuring a baseball, softball, and football player mannequin, just to remind everyone this is not just a football locker room. In the spring months, it is used for the Dutch and the Dutchman baseball, softball teams. And on the right, just kind of how new traditions start, the Hope College anchor on a pedestal right outside the building, and the tradition has it now, players when they're leaving rub the anchor. On the left, Russ DeVette and Glenn Van Weeren. Russ is a varsity coach. Glenn was a JV coach. I don't think that I'm saying anything I shouldn't be saying because it's on the website. But we're very pleased to know that in December, the weekend of December 2021, the holiday tournament is going to be named in honor of Coach Glenn. 33 years coaching career when he retired in 2010. Outstanding basketball, baseball player, cross-country runner as a student athlete. We know him as a basketball coach, but during his career, he also coached baseball, cross-country, soccer, had 19 MIAA championships. So a very, very, very fitting recognition of Glenn by having that holiday tournament named in his honor. And just some fun pictures of Glenn and over his career. Our Dew crew giving him a championship ride after his 500th win. Glenn with family, Jackie, Gretel, Heidi, Curia, and Rebecca. On the right, Glenn started the international trips that are pretty common now for a lot of Hope athletic teams. But he, for several years, would take his team to Chiapas, Mexico, where Vern Sturck, a RCA missionary, was a missionary there over a 41-year career. And a picture on the right, this shows how, again, demonstrates how Glenn really gets into it with his players. That's Glenn on the far right in the basketball uniform. Upper right was always a fun question at the beginning of basketball seasons when it was time to take a team picture for the basketball programs. And Glenn wanted to always do something imaginative. This picture here on a yacht. I thought we'd change the name of the team to Floating Dutchman that year, but we didn't. Taking them out at the Tulip City Airport, taking them out at the beach with Big Red. It was just kind of fun to see what was going through Glenn's head as far as what the preseason team picture should look like. Stu Fritz was our longtime baseball coach, retiring just at the end of last spring. And this top picture is Stu's first home game, 1994. And Hope won on a walk-off home run against the Olivet Comets. And you can see from Stu's enthusiasm there. You know, we saw that a lot during his 31 years of coaching. On the right, Stu and Carol, his wife Carol, very, very integral to the athletic program as an admissions counselor, and just a lot of interactions in different ways with the families of our athletes. And we were honored to be able to recognize both Carol and Stu at the Hopi Awards last spring. Hope joined the MIAA in 1926, and this is Hope's very first MIAA championship team, the 1937 Flying Dutchman. Since that time, Hope has won over 300 MIAA championships for men and women. We talk a lot about the student athlete and how important that dimension of being a good student as well as excelling in your sport is. And I just have picked three pictures here, three examples. On the left, Grace Van Dellen. Grace is a four-time academic All-American, majored in mechanical engineering, and is working right here in Holland as a design engineer at Gentech. In the middle, Evan Thomas, a biology major, outstanding basketball player, received the NCAA postgraduate scholarship, and now is attending University of Michigan Medical School. Sydney Jackson on the right, tennis player, two-time MIAA MVP, a biomedical and bioelectrical engineering major. This really, more than any other example I could give you, typifies academic excellence. This is a Hope Women's Cross Country team, and they, for the 34th consecutive year, received all academic team honors from the National Track and Field and Coaches Association. No other university or college, any division, has been able to say that they've won it for that many years in a row. Last year's team, on a 4.0 GPA, had a GPA of 3.76. That's a cumulative. Had 7 academic All-Americans in chemistry, elementary ed, civil engineering, nursing, and exercise science. Becky Schmidt. Becky, Hope's very first volleyball All-American. Hometown girl, graduate of Holland High School, became Hope's volleyball coach, now in her 21st season. It's hard to believe, 21 years already. This year, the team is just excelling They were national champions in 2014, last year, second in the nation. 530 wins against only 32 losses. That top picture I really like. I mean, it shows the pride that she has in her athletes. They're actually hosting an MIAA championship trophy there. But Becky just soaking it all in. And then the bottom picture when they won the national championship. Kevin Cole has been our track coach now in his 20th season. He's pictured with Gord Brewer. Kevin ran for Gord on the track team. He was all MIAA in track and cross country. You're going to kind of see a common theme here, which again, I think speaks to Hope. So many of our coaches were student athletes at Hope. So they understand the experience, they understand the coach, the school. And, I just think that's a wonderful thing. Kevin, during his time as track coach, has coached 198 MIAA champions in individual events and 40 All-Americans. So just doing a great job. Mark Nordheis, class of 1982, has been coaching since 1988, 36th season. And he too, all MIAA, cross country and track. And excited for the coming weekend when the MIAA cross country championships are held. It'll be hosted by Calvin. And the women's cross country team is seeking its 8th consecutive championship. Peter Sturzma, another Hope alum, class of 1993, in his 8th year as coach. Peter, during his senior year, suffered a leg injury that sidelined him for the rest of the season, but didn't prevent him from cheering on his teammates. And he, as a senior, was awarded the Kinney Award, which is an award Hope gives to the outstanding senior athlete, the Al Kinney Award. Hope, if you've been following our football team this year, undefeated on the season, have a big game Saturday at home against Albion, and we wish the Dutchmen well as in their pursuit for the MIAA championship. Mike Shanholz has been Hope's lacrosse coach since the beginning of the varsity program in 2013, but he's been so much more than just the varsity coach. He was a student athlete and played lacrosse when it was a club sport. He became the club team coach, and then when it became a varsity status in 2013, he became the head coach. And doing all of this while being a teacher in North Muskegon and commuting back and forth. On the right, there you are, John. 39 years of coaching. And I know very, very excited that his successor, Jake Tabor, a class of 2004. And Jake has been has been the head coach since 2018. I just wanted to say a few things here about Tim Schoonveld. Tim, our athletic director, 1996 Hope grad. And Tim has really kind of been behind this idea of one team. In other words, all of the athletes, you're one team. And he brings them all together at the beginning of the school year, and along with some good food and inspirational comments, they then spell out words. And the top one: be strong, be true, And then this year's is legacy. And Tim and I talked this summer a lot about that because he said, you know, we're bringing in new coaches, new ideas. It's so important to him that we maintain the legacy that I've tried to do in a way here with recognition of some of our longtime coaches and talking about their programs. And you know, the idea of tradition and you know, evoking those memories in the minds of current student athletes and fans is very, very important. But beyond the athletic competition, Tim has just brought some wonderful things to Hope. Again, the one team idea. The athletic department has created a program called SEED, SEED, Sport Evangelism to Equip Disciples. And student athletes utilize their passion of sport to share love of Christ in mission trips. And they've taken students to the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Uganda, and Zambia through this program. They've also created a program called Team 43. And I just have got a couple things here I'd like to read, and we're going to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Hope Athletics is built upon 3 pillars: academic excellence, competitive excellence, transformational experiences. To uphold these pillars, Hope is committed to fostering transformational experiences, and Team 43 is a vital part of this commitment. This program is truly changing the lives of our student athletes every day. More than a decade ago, a Hope football player had a vision to help support injured student athletes, which became Team 43, led by volunteer chaplain Jerry Root. This group was established to support student athletes who sustained season or career-ending injury, guiding them through difficult transitions. The success of this program led Hope to expand it, placing a mentor or ambassador in each athletic program. These members provide another layer of support for our student athletes, helping them navigate the challenges of college life. Team 43 ambassadors meet with student athletes for breakfast, lunch, or coffee, fostering trusting relationships. They attend practices and games, becoming a unique support system for those who choose to connect with them. Last year alone, there were over 500 individual visits with mentors, many initiated by the student athletes themselves, demonstrating the program's impact. I just would like to conclude by sharing the Hope athletic philosophy. And it reads, the mission of Hope Athletics is to promote and provide programs defined by competitive excellence and transformational experiences for student athletes. This mission is carried out by administrators, coaches, and staff who are committed to developing students for lives of leadership and service. Athletics is an integrated component of the college that contributes to the vitality of the campus by developing student athlete talents and skills, promoting institutional pride, and generating visibility and connections with alumni, fans, and the broader community. Our vision is that Hope will be a national leader in intercollegiate athletics, with all teams regularly competing for conference championships. We'll be positioned as the premier athletics program in the MIAA. Each sport program will earn recognition for academic excellence, with high retention and graduation rates through regional and national academic honors. Athletes will provide exceptional value and benefit to the college and broader community through accessible fan and family-friendly events, along with community service and outreach. The members of the athletics program are committed to the utmost integrity in competition, the engagement in Christian faith formation, and are dedicated to excelling in sports, academic, and life. I'd like to conclude by thanking you as fans of Hope College. We've had the beautiful weather, but that weather's probably going to change. So I thought, well, this kind of just typified November sports at Hope. This was a football game where during a timeout, the grounds crew had to come out and sweep off the court, the floor or the field, so we could see the lines. Thank you for this opportunity, both last week and today, just to kind of to share Hope athletics and my journey. And I'd like now to invite if any of you have questions or something you'd like to say.
I was wondering if through the record keeping of attendance, if things have changed since the sports are now on YouTube and you can watch from your living room.
I know they're working hard at season ticket sales, and you know, in basketball there was always a long waiting list, and I don't think it's very long anymore. And I do think that it. I don't know if any of you have season tickets. You might have received an email recently. They're creating. This is kind of fun. The students section has been known as the Do Crew. They're going to create a fan base of season ticket holders called the Blue Crew. And next week on Monday, the season ticket holders, and I'm sure others, it's going to be publicized, are invited to see the women and men's basketball teams. They'll be introduced next Monday evening at the Voss, and then they're going to have special Blue Crew shirts to give to everybody. So yeah, it's a challenge. The streaming, you know, Carol and I know from personal experience that, you know, it's not as easy to get to all the games like we used to. And what Hope does with the streaming, I think, is just really masterful, beautiful work. But at the same time, it's two less bodies filling the seats. Okay, George?
I came to Hope in 1967 when Tom graduated, and it's been wonderful to see the growth of sport. And Gord Brewer was a good friend of both Tom and me, and we knew him. And I was his history major, not at Hope, but when in his first book, But How They Played the Game, we talked a lot about what he was going to call that book. And if you remember, that's the last line of Grantland Rice's quatrain: when the one great scorer comes to mark against your name, he writes not that you won or lost, but how you played the game.
Yeah.
And I know that's what, that was so, to me, that epitomized Gord. It was, as you can see from Tom's presentation, obviously been extremely successful in sport, but it's always been the important things about how you played the game. That famous quatrain by Grantland Rice. And I don't think there's a school in the country that has a better history of their sports program, really Division I, II, or III, than Hope College. And that's because of Gord Brewer and Tom. So I think we should give Tom just a huge hand for this, because it's just a tremendous accomplishment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, George.
Tom, I've got a curious question. It has something to do with sport, but more just at your role at Hope College. How many photos, hundreds of thousands of photos, do you have in your archives?
We got to let Lynn answer that.
I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Lynn Poe, and I'm in public affairs and marketing, and part of my job is photography and digital asset management. And we've had, I've had students scanning Tom's negatives since 2013, when we got permission to create an online database. And so our priority was just getting the photos upline where they were safe in case we had another fire or anything like that. And Tom did an amazing job every year of having those archived negatives. And literally, as George said, there's no other college that has that. I mean, I worked at Olivet College for 2 years. They didn't keep anything. So for us to have that resource to be able to go through, and then for Tom, for all his record keeping, and Gord as well, to be able to go back to that. So currently we have probably 500,000 just of, not just of athletics, of all Hope photos, because Tom did photography of everything. And I still hire him, but I don't hire him because he volunteers. So Saturday he was doing the donut run, the football game in Nykirk. So thank you, Tom, for continuing to add to our database. Now I'm going year by year and editing those down because some of them may be repeated photos and we don't need that many in the archives. So we're trying to make it manageable, but just a really, really strong database. So, and Tom was able to go back and pull a lot for his book, which was awesome too.
And as they scanned them, then Lynn says, can you go in and tag them? In other words, who's in the picture? So I'm working hard at that while my memory is still good. And the database is much like a Google search. If I type in a name, any picture in that total database will pop up. And if it's been tagged, then we're getting there. Yes.
Tom, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Yep.
And I just want to say thank you to you and your team, because over the years, you've created not only those pictures that are worth thousands of words, but also the methodology, the equipment that you have, and the expertise that you bring for college athletes in every single sport. There's always an interest in making sure that there's a picture for almost every athlete, for every sport at Hope College. And I think you brought that, and I appreciate what you did there. Second thing is, I hope that the 21st alcove at DeVos is someday associated with coaches.
Yep.
Tom, I know that over the years, not only were you photographing sports, but you did all kinds of activities here at Hope. So I'm just going to ask, what is one of your most memorable non-sport photographing experiences here at Hope College?
Oh, probably the Van Raalte Hall fire. We were talking about that before our meeting today a little bit. I had a student, John Kobus was his name. And John had a part-time job at Beechnut Lifesavers is what that they were when they first built that building. And John worked overnight security there. And Carol and we're home because it's 4 a.m. in the morning and the phone rings. And I answer the phone and it's John. And he says, Mr. Renner, Van Raalte Hall's on fire. So I got as I told you earlier, I'm a volunteer fireman. So I grabbed my boots and coat and made the commute from South Haven to Holland. And yeah, it was really kind of wrenching experience. We were a week away from graduation. The diplomas were burned up. So many business office records were damaged or destroyed. Yeah, so the team really worked hard coming together to make the end of that year go okay. But then the next 2 or 3 years of recovering, a lot of the file cabinets fell into the basement because Van Raalte had wooden floors, and when the thing burned, so they were able to recover a lot of these file cabinets, but they were soaking wet. So they rented a freezer truck and brought all of these file cabinets and put them in this truck, took them to a place where they could dry them out, basically. About 4 months later, they all came back, and Carnegie Gym was still there. Set up tables on all the floor, and started putting out all these pieces of paper one by one, and who do they belong to, and are they worth keeping. I should also just say alumni have been so generous with, because we lost in our office a lot of historical programs and stat sheets and this kind of thing. And, over the years, even recently, people will write or call and say, I've got a program from 19 such and such. Would you like it? And of course, we're very happy, very, very happy to get it.
Well, again, thanks, Tom.
Okay.
And it was a banner day when I was a student here at Hope. You got out of class early, so we're going to let you all conclude. But if you haven't purchased a book and still want one, they're out in the entryway, and Tom has graciously agreed to sign them. So again, thanks, and thank you for being here. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a privilege to be with you. Thank you. Gordon Van Wylen. And I mean, that's an interesting story all to itself. Gordon had the practice middle of the night when he couldn't sleep, making himself a cup of Ovaltine. And he followed that practice, but then he really could able to go back to sleep. So this fire happened, and for the first 2 or 3 hours, no president. And people said, "Where's Gordon?" So they went and knocked on the door and woke him up. And he, of course, organized the team to get the recovery effort going. But we said he could be a great spokesman for Ovaltine. Because there were fire trucks in the Pine Grove and, all kinds of noise. Okay, well, thank you again. See, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you for thinking of me to do it.